In this video, I am going to be talking about stat enhancement and how you can manipulate these, how to get grade 3s, grade 4s, and grade 5s, how to increase your chances so you don't use as much resources or you don't need to spend as much. Before you watch this video though, you need to watch 3 videos. You'll see them in the description. Stack and ability video, the mutation video, and then the soul ability video. Also note that there is an affixing playlist, or I have a lot of affixing playlists. You can look in the description for that, but the basic one to get you started will pop up above my head. I am going to be using the North America PSO2 simulator, and I'm going to be using a lot of North America terminology instead so you guys can understand this. When it comes to the Japanese PSO2, they moved away from this because of the easy method that we have, especially on a unit and on a weapon. SAFs are a thing, and I will mention a bit more about those things at the end of this video. Now, I am going to be mentioning a couple other things I'm not going to emphasize on. I will state them, but you don't really need to know what it is. Once again, the affixing playlist does cover it. I might make a redo for certain videos like the SAF one, and then maybe a bit more on the upsliding, but I already got various videos emphasizing on what it is and how to actually tackle it. So, when it comes to the stat enhancement abilities, they are pretty much going to be emphasizing on one stat. So if you look at might, for example, this is going to focus on your melee power. If you look at precision, your range power, and then you can go down the list. There are grade 6 abilities, but I'll talk about them later. When it comes to these particular stat enhancements on this list, there are what, 5 grades. Grade 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. With these abilities, you can easily transfer them with just one copy, but the percentage might be different. So might 1, for example, if you have one of these copies, you can get it to transfer at 100%. This can also be viewed as a junk ability because it is transferable with one of its copies and it is at 100%. Junk abilities are pretty much anything that is equal to 100% by itself. So that is might 1. Might 2 is at a 60%, might 3 is at a 60%, might 4 is at a 40%, and might 5 is at a 20%. This applies to all of the other stat enhancement as well. So if I were to do the same thing, the percentages for the precision is gonna match what I did with the might. So might, guess what? Precision 2, precision 3 is gonna be at a transfer rate of 60% with one of its copies. Precision 4 is at 40%. Precision 5 is at 20%. Same can be said with casting, defense, toughness, all of these abilities that are within the stat enhancement. Now, do not mix these with other percentages or other abilities. For example, there are the status effect abilities. They do have grade 1 through 5 as well, but they do not have the same percentage. If I were to transfer a burn 1, it is not 100%. It is at a 60%. There will be a future video talking about how to manipulate these status elements and why you would want to go for them. And with those particular abilities, it's on a weapon. It cannot be used on a unit. So, you might be saying, how do I increase these chances, Morph? I don't want to transfer a might 5 with just a 20%. Easy, stack it. So, 2 of these might 5s will get me a 40%. 3 of these will give me a 60%. Same can be said with the grade 4s. If I want to stack on it, 2 of them 60%, 3 of them 80%, and then the mights, same dealio. However, you'll notice that something is popping up every time I decide to stack more than one copy of itself to each other, and it's the process or the ability to go to that grade 2 ability. So guess what? When it comes to you getting a higher grade, you can work your way from the bottom up. So with might 1s, if I have 2 copies of might 1s, I can actually make a might 2. However, I can increase this a bit more, or increase it by a good 20% more by having 3 copies instead. Any more than 3 will be a waste though, because you'll see that the percentage increase is not, that might 2% is still stuck at an 80%, so there is no increase whatsoever. Your magic number is 3, so stay with 3. Same concept applies to all these other grades. So guess what? If I want to try to get a might 2, or try to make a might 3 with might 2s, I can use 2 of these, and you can see that it's at an 80%. Actually, no, excuse me, 30%. And then with 3 of them, it's at a 50%. For might 3s, 2 of these can give me a 20% to make a Might 4, and then 3 of these will give me the highest chance to make a Might 4 at a 40%, and then last one is Might 4s. 2 of them will give me a 10% to make a Might 5, and then 3 of them will give me a 30% to make a Might 5. Might 5s cannot upgrade into a grade 6. That is not a thing. So you might be saying, okay, Morph, if I do something like this, this is the highest percent chance, right? Wrong. Mutation. If you use a mutation in this formula, you can see that it does push that percent by a whopping 30. Mutation 1 is specifically used for getting grade 2s into grade 3s. Now this isn't just for stat enhancement, there's other abilities. If there are other abilities that have grade 1s to 5, you can use a mutation within the formula to up it up to a grade 3. Once again, I'll talk about all these other abilities later. So if you only have, like, let's say 2 Might 2s and you have a mutation somewhere on a weapon and or unit, instead of working with just this 30%, you can use this, use a 30% and gamble at a 90%. This is entirely up to you. But you do have control to get this to at least 100%, get it to 80% at the very least, use a 30% boost, get it to 100% to get your grade 3. Now, with the grade 3s, there are a couple ways to go about getting it to transfer. And when it comes to you upgrading it, guess what? You will want to do this process where you have a mutation 2 instead. Mutation 1 is solely on grade 2s, but mutation 2 is on grade 3 abilities. So, if I want to try to make a grade 4, if I have 2 Might 3s and a mutation 2, guess what? That percent just increased by a good 20%, 30%, 30%. And guess what? If I really want to make sure that this thing succeeds, have 3 Might 3s and a mutation 2, it is at a 70%. Guess what? If I want to try to transfer this, use a 30% and it becomes 100%. Now, there is one thing to note, and it's the fact that if you are doing something like this and you are upgrading, you don't want to use a soul in this process. Unless your specific formula requires a soul somewhere and you need to finalize the pieces so it has a soul and a Might 4, that is on you. But for example, quartz soul tends to boost a bunch of certain affixes, abilities. If you have your mouse just linger on the name, you can see that there's a small little box that tells you what it boosts. Now, the thing is, using the quartz soul to try to increase your chance to a Might 4 is not a thing, so you do not want to use that. You want to stick with these in themselves if you're trying to push for a grade 4. Now, if I wanted to just use grade 3s, this is a different story. So I have 1 Might 3. If I do have a soul that can boost this percent, guess what? It will. So quartz soul tends to boost, what does it boost? It boosts toughness, might, spirits, panic, affixes. So guess what? Having a quartz soul here with a Might 3 increases that percent by a good 20. So this allows you to most likely use this soul in the formula process, but this also saves you a good Might 3 if you do not have a lot of Might 3s. You can use this as a buffer to increase your percent chance. But once again, if you're trying to go to the grade 4, you will need to get mutations instead of a soul to do that process. Sadly, when it comes to you going from Might 4 to Might 5, there are no mutation 3 for this. And there's no way to actually increase this percent other than your ability booster over here. So if you use a 30%, you're working with a 60. Use a 40%, you're working with a 70. If it's on an affix week, at the very least, you could try to increase this a bit further. If it's a 10% affix week, it can go to an 80%, depending on what the percent number is. So that pretty much covers most of the stat enhancements and how to actually manipulate with them and toy around with them and get what you are trying to get. Before I go on to the Japanese PSO2 to showcase the one way to get these grade 5 abilities easily on a unit, let me talk about the SAF stuff. So there are grade 5 abilities. There is a might 5, might 6, a position 6, casting 6, stamina, spirit 6. Note that if you do get a grade, if it's not a SAF, let's say dim weapons. Okay, dim weapons are 14-star weapons. I know North America PSO2 does not have them. The reason why I'm bringing them up is because if you do plus 35 that 14-star, you get the SAF of a grade 6, depending on what it is. So if it's a melee weapon, it's going to give you might 6. If it's a range weapon, it's going to give you shoot 6. Range, technique casting weapons is going to be casting 6. And it's going to be a SAF. Now you can manipulate and toy around with this. This goes further into the SAF video, but if it is on that weapon and stuff, it can be as it is. But the moment it is not on its original weapon, let's say you transfer the, let's say you use a dim weapon in the process when you're making a final affix and you finalize this ability and you got rid of your dim weapon in the process. Now it's stuck. You cannot transfer this grade 6. So if you see any grade 6 on a weapon and or unit in the future, you can't really manipulate them unless it's already on a particular weapon that gives the SAF of a grade 6. But yeah, you're stuck with this and you cannot manipulate it. It does not follow the same rules like these basic stat enhancement. So let me go on to the Japanese PSO2. Now, there is an easy way to affix this, and this is why you might not be spending as much time making these grade 5s anymore in the Japanese PSO2. I understand that right now for the Japanese PSO2, they have the ability to get SAF on units because 13-star units offer a SAF now. So, and they also offer S-class ability slot as well. So this NPC should be very familiar over there in the North America. Now when you are on the Japanese PSO2, you can locate her underneath the cafe. And if you have been farming various featured quests, limited quests, or limited quests in itself, or some seasonal limited quests, seasonal emergency quests, depending on the difficulty, you will get these Weapon Badge 2020. Guess what you can do with these Weapon Badge 2020? That's the wrong selection. You can go to the Weapon Badge Stone or the Exchange Weapon Badges, click on the Weapon Exchange 2020, scroll all the way down and you will see 13-star novel weapons you can get. Or 13-star novel units. Now you might be saying, okay Morph, that's good and all, but what do they do? These unit pieces can easily give you an SAF of a grade 5. I do have a couple in my storage, so let us go over there. Let me pull up these novels, and you will see that they do have an SAF, and it is a power 5. Liberates, the upgraded version of these novels, can give you a grade 6, but they are a bit costly because of the fact that you're spending resources to get a Liberate. There is a campaign event going on. I did mention it in a prior video if you are watching this upon its release date. But you can get an SAF of these grade 5s easily, and if you farm those badges and you go over there and exchange those badges for these units, you can use these to easily get a grade 5 of shoot, shoot, technique, and power. The leg one will give you the technique 5 one, and once again, the liberate units can also give you the grade 6, and with all these 13-star units as well, they will give other SAFs as well, like for the wrong one, like Scaval for example. It's another unit set that you could try to aim for. They will give you sentence abilities at a transfer rate of 100 depending on what the piece is. So that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, comment, concerns, put it down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.